everyone, and welcome to New Comic Book News, a weekly show all about comics, from FOCs to exciting announcements to indies to keep your eyes on and everything in between. My name is Michael Balonis, and I will be your newscaster for the week, so let's jump right in. The first segment of the week will be all about FOCs, or Final Order Cutoffs. If you're not familiar, a Final Order Cutoff basically just means that it's the last day that you can pre-order a book from your local comic book shop. So if it's a book that you definitely don't want to miss, it's the last day that you can ensure that you get yourself a copy. The first three titles we're going to talk about, the FOC is actually today. Alright, so future Michael here in the editing room, which is the same room. Anyway, just want to let you guys know that the FOCs that I'm about to talk about, the first three, are no longer accurate. It's a long story, but essentially the video did not go up in time. It was meant to go up yesterday as you're seeing this. So we're going to treat this video as a test run. Now, the rest of the video is still fully accurate. It's just the three FOCs at the top. I still want to talk about them just in case, you weren't aware of them and are able to get a copy of books that you want. But yeah, just treat this video as a test run or a test drive, or at least the beginning of it, and that's about it. Let's go back to the video now. So after these first three, definitely be sure to pause this video, call up your local comic book store, and tell them you want to order a copy. First up, coming from DC, we have Nightwing issue 136. Nightwing has been having his moment in the spotlight as he's had recent runs take critical acclaim from writers like Tom Taylor and Dan Watters. And now the Bloodhaven hero is entering a brand new arc, still being written by Dan Watters, who's had incredible work on titles like Batman Dark Patterns and The Six Fingers. This new era of Nightwing is going to be drawn by Denise Cohen, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Hopefully I am, so sorry. He's been an industry staple since like the 80s and has worked on titles like The Question and Black Panther, but is also one of the co-founders of Milestone Comics and helped to create characters like Hardware, Icon, and Rocket. And again, the FOC for Nightwing 136 is today. Next up from DC is the brand new Batwoman #1. Batwoman is a title that is consistently surprising and always pushing the bounds of what a mainline DC comic can do. And arguably doing that more than any other run was Rucka's run with J.H. Williams. Now Rucka is back to writing Batwoman, but this time with the incredible artist Danny. Danny has done work on The Invisible Man by James Tynion and The Low Low Woods as part of the Hill House Comics line. Once more, the FOC for Batwoman #1 is today. And now we can get into an indie comic FOC. This is Neighborhood Watch #1 coming out of Boom Studios by Sarah Gailey and Hayne. Now I'm a little bit miffed about this because I had a horror comic that I was working on also titled Neighborhood Watch, but it's fine, Sarah, I won't take it personally. Sarah Gailey is a writer who has worked on titles like Vampire Slayer and Eat the Rich, whereas Haining is an artist who's worked on things like Absolute Flash and Poison Ivy. So I am really excited for this combination that's going to come out in this new, what's being described as a mind-bending thriller about community. So again, the FOC for that is today. Please go call your local comic book shop and let them know you want these books. We have our first breaking news alert of this new weekly series, because I did not know about this indie comic that's FOC is also today. That is on me. That's not really breaking news. I should have known about this. Whatever. Breaking news alert. There was another indie comic titled Dead Teenagers coming out of Oni Press, and the FOC for that is today. Dead Teenagers, I'm going to read it since I didn't know about it. It says, there is no escaping high school. Since 1997, 5 friends have been trapped in the ultimate nightmare as a mysterious entity forces them to relive their first prom night over and over again, and re-kills them in a new and increasingly insane ways each time. They dress up, they party, they make out, and no matter what they try to change, they always die. Until now. So I'm really excited for that one. Didn't know about it. I'm always into a new indie horror, though. The FOC is today, so I will be sure to call my local comic book store and let them know that I want that, so you should too. Okay, now we can get into some FOCs that aren't as urgent. We have a little bit of time, but those FOCs are coming up pretty quick. First, we have White Sky issue #2. In White Sky issue #1, if you've been in the circles, it kind of blew up over the past week or so. The aftermarket prices have been going absolutely insane, so you definitely don't want to miss issue 2. White Sky is kind of this post-apocalyptic story that's sort of The Last of Us, but with ghosts that roam the earth, burning everything they can. A lot of the premise of that is still kind of a mystery, so we're not really sure what's going on, but it's definitely got an insanely compelling hook. The FOC for White Sky number 2 is March 2nd of this year, 2026. Next up, we have Feral issue number 21. Now, Feral's another post-apocalyptic story, but this one is kind of like if The Walking Dead had happened in a Disney cartoon movie about cats and rabies. It's done by the same creative team that did Stray Dogs, and Stray Dogs was a phenomenal story. Feral has been equally as phenomenal, if not more so. And this 21st issue is introducing a brand new arc, so even if you haven't been keeping up with it, it's the perfect jumping on point for you. And the FOC for that is also March 2nd of this year. Next up, we have the Abattoir 6, if I'm pronouncing Abattoir right. Hopefully I am. This one is also a post-apocalyptic story. Actually, I'm sorry, I didn't know that when I was going into this. That's on me. This one, though, is about a group of prisoners trying to escape said prison while being hunted by monstrous vampires. I don't know, but I'm in, and you should be too. The FOC for that is also March 2nd of this year. That concludes our FOC roundup for this week, so we can move on over into the news, and boy howdy do we have a lot of news. If you're not familiar, Comics Pro happened over the course of this weekend, and a ton of news dropped from that and other sources as well, just kind of hyping up everything. I probably won't be able to get to everything that was announced. I will miss something, but there was a lot, so I'm going to try to wrangle all of it the best I can. Bear with me. From a new installment of Lenore, to a new traumatic war story in Dog Tag, to a fun new Lilo and Stitch anthology series, all the way to Marvel's Ultimate line getting an ultimate finale, there is so much to talk about. Let's kick things off with something a little personal to me. I've always been a massive fan of Kevin Smith, even when he does things I'm not too fond of. So I am so excited to talk about his new comic announcement, Jay's A Future Past, where his Isk universe clashes with the Marvel universe as Jay and Silent Bob find themselves in the Marvel universe and targeted by Doctor Doom himself. It's up to the heroes of Marvel to team up and save the two Jersey boys. Kevin Smith has this to say about it. From the moment in Mallrats when they made the very first reference to Wolverine in cinema history, I've always wanted Jay and Silent Bob to meet their Marvel heroes in a comic book crossover. So much so that I pitched it to Stan the Man himself the day he shot his cameo in the movie way back in 1995. 30 years later, Jay's A Future Past represents both a love letter to the magic and mayhem of Marvel as well as giggle-inducing proof that our childhood dreams can still come true, even at age 55. Good or bad, I am so excited for Jay's A Future Past, and this title will hit shelves on June 10th of this year. Next up, I want to talk about Odin, the latest horror venture from the twisted mind of James Tynion. He's this little-known writer who you might know from titles like, I don't know, Something is Killing the Children or Department of Truth. Odin is a story all about a journalist who is working undercover to write a piece on a group of neo-Nazis in Norway that are seeking the power of a Norse god to claim their white supremacist destinies. And James Tynion has this to say about the new series. It all started as a text conversation about a group of white supremacists we'd seen a story about online talking about their faith in Odin. And then we started talking about what the real Norse Odin would do with these idiots if he had the chance. It felt pretty immediately clear that there was a mean and brutal horror story in it, and we wanted to tell it together. I've always been a massive fan of James Tynion, so I'm really excited for any new horror project he takes on, and this one's gonna hit the shelves on May 6th of this year. Keeping in the same vein, let's talk about another new horror indie comic titled Sicko. It's coming out of Ignition Press and is written by Teenie Howard, who has previously written for titles like Catwoman, Harley Quinn, and Excalibur. It's a dark, surreal story that wants to tackle the healthcare system and is all about a girl named Valentine that has a power that allows her to weaponize her autoimmune system. For example, turning her sneezes into deadly projectiles. At first glance, with the comic art and the premise, this story reminds me a little bit of Elfen Lied. It promises to be this weird, surreal adventure thriller story, so I'm definitely really excited for it, and it's gonna hit your comic stores July 22nd of this year. A new indie comic that's coming out of Image Comics this year that I'm really excited for is a title called If Destruction Be Our Lot. It's coming from the minds of two brothers, Mark Rosenberg, who's written titles like Approaching the Unknown and Year Million, and Matthew Rosenberg, who's written titles like Four Kids Walk Into a Bank, What's the furthest place from here? And my personal favorite, We're Taking Everyone Down With Us. Their new title is a sci-fi thriller that takes place after the world has already ended, and all that's left are robots, including a robot replica of Abraham Lincoln, who's in search of a bigger purpose than just doing his job day in, day out. The first issue of this brand new series will be released on May 6th of this year. Moving into some of the big 2 news now, we have Absolute Green Arrow, the latest entry in the Absolute line over at DC, which has been making some of the biggest creative swings the company has ever taken. It's being written by Pornsak, who's written titles like Infidel and Man's Best, and is being drawn by Raphael Albuquerque, who's drawn for books like DC's Blue Beetle and American Vampire, Scott Snyder's indie horror book. This version of Absolute Green Arrow is going to be an interesting one, as we already know that Oliver Queen is dead going into it. But now there are dead billionaires popping up all over the city with green arrows sticking out of their corpses. Dina Lance, the absolute Black Canary, is the main character of this horror story as she investigates this string of murders. Absolute Green Arrow will be hitting your stands on May 20th of this year. I'm gonna board slide my way into my comfort zone a little bit now with the new indie title, Skate Alley. You see what I did there with the board slide? Thank you, I'll be here all week. It's written by Sam Humphries, who's written things like The Ultimates, and it's also being written by Kelly Sue DeConnick, who's written titles like Bitch Planet and FML. It's a series that's set in a near future LA where skateboarding has been outlawed. The main character, Allie, if I'm pronouncing that right, and it's not Ollie. You know, Ollie would make a lot of sense, actually, given the skateboarding of it all. But then, like, would it be spelled O-L-L-I-E and not A-L-I? I'll get back to you on that. The main character, Allie/Ollie, who's a rebellious skateboarder, finds herself mixed up in the world of underground skateboarding, where she meets a group of skateboarding revolutionaries that use a magic force known as Rush to pull off explosive feats in an act of resistance. This new indie series will be coming out June 10th of this year, and hopefully by then I will know if it's pronounced Allie or Ollie. Now, here's one I'm really excited for, maybe more than I should be, but I am super nostalgic for the source material. That's the new Ben 10 comic. That's right, Ben 10 is having a new reboot in the form of a comic book, but here's the kicker. It's being done by the original creative team that did Ben 10 in the first place. That's right, they are coming back to retell their own story and are describing it as their absolute version of Ben 10. A modern retelling of the original series that follows the same formula, but with a bit of a grittier take on its source. The first issue is written by Joe Casey, one of the original creators of the series, but is also a comic writer in his own right who's done a lot of things, but notably is the co-creator of America Chavez. The art is being done by Robert Carey, who's worked on titles like Aliens, James Bond, Power Rangers, and DC's Outsiders. The first issue of the brand new Ben 10 comic series is coming out May 6th of this year. Now, this has gone on way too long already, and we still have the rest of the video to get through. There were a lot more announcements. I'm not going to go into detail on all these comic titles, but here's some of the ones that I think you should keep your eyes on. The Devil in the Herd, In Your Skin, Royals, Fireborn, Red Roots, and The Fall of House of Slaughter. Alright, we are done with announcements. If you think I missed anything major, please let me know in the comments below. Let's quickly go over our penultimate topic though, Kickstarters. In this weekly series, I want to try to cover Kickstarters, popular or not, that I think you should check out and possibly back. Kickstarter is a gold mine for indie comics, people that don't quite have the backing power of things like Image or Boom, but have incredible stories that they are telling. First up on that list, we have Snip Issues 1 and 2. It's a sci-fi story that boasts the premise, what if you could just snip your problems away? Here 1 second, forgotten the next. What if someone else decided what actually is a problem and what isn't? What if they decided the problem is you? At the time of recording this, there is still 17 days left to back this project, so go check it out. Next we have It Is a Haven with You, a steampunk fantasy story in which the main character, Nolly, dies, but then is reborn by an ancient power she doesn't understand, and is suddenly being chased by corporations that want what's inside of her. It's being described as a dimension-jumping, coming-of-age story about transformation through loss, choice, and faith. Wrapped in steampunk fantasy, it explores what it means to become something new when the old world refuses to let go. As of now, that still has 11 days left for you to check it out and back it. Non-Photo Blue was the next one on our list, and this isn't an individual issue, this is a graphic novel that tells the story of trauma and how we carry it with us for the rest of our lives, consciously or not. And it's using the meta-narrative of non-photo blue is a shade of blue that goes undetected in a finished work. Whether it's blue line pencil sketches or notes in a margin, the blues are there. They're just not seen by the rest of the world. That one promises to be an emotional story, and it still has 6 days left of its campaign, so go check it out. And I'd be remiss if I didn't take a second to shamelessly plug my own Kickstarter. It's not live yet, okay, so no rush, you don't have to go back it immediately or anything like that. But I would love for you to go check out the pre-launch page, maybe hit the little sign up for notifications button so you can find out when we do go live. It's called Witch Hunt, and it's a story all about a monster hunting witch named Laurel. It's gonna be messy, violent, funny, and full of heart, and the artist, Kachi Lee, has already done some amazing work that's been blowing me away, so I can't wait to see more, and I can't wait for you to see more. So again, it's not live yet, but you can go to that pre-launch page. Just go to Kickstarter.com, type in Witch Hunt, it'll be the first thing that pops up, and you can sign up for notifications if you want to see more when we do go live. With that shameless plug out of the way, we can go on to talk about the last segment of the video, and that is my favorite comics from last week. Now, listen, I could start with something like Absolute Batman number 17, but I feel like I really don't need to hype you up on Absolute Batman. Everybody's reading it. But I will anyway. Because Batman number 17 is the strongest individual the series has had in a long while. And you should absolutely... See what I did there? Absolutely. Anyway. And you should absolutely read it even if you haven't read anything prior or dropped it at some point. Anyway, besides Batman, we have White Sky issue number 1. Now, you might remember me talking about this earlier in the video, and you might have already seen people talking about White Sky because the prices have blown up considerably after the release of issue 1. So going into it, I was already a little hesitant because every time a book is hyped up like that and prices get ridiculous, I'm always like, okay, yeah, I get it. But the creators of that book can't be blamed for that aftermarket chaos, and the book was incredibly good. And listen, it has Lee Louridge coloring, which is an automatic win for any book, in my opinion. It's essentially a story that asks the question, what if The Last of Us had ring wraiths from Lord of the Rings that roam the earth, burning everything in their path? This story was, again, surprisingly compelling. The line artist did a lot of really interesting things with some of the panel layouts, and by the end of the first issue, I was hooked. I need more. There's still so many mysteries left to unravel. It was surprisingly emotional, and again, really interesting panel layouts. I don't know. I'm in for the long haul. Let's go. White Sky was great. Next up, we have Inferno Girl Red issue number 3. This is a part of the Massiveverse line that Kyle Higgins has been doing with various creators and various projects. They have titles like Radiant Black, Rogue Sun, No One, and The Dead Lucky, I think. And then, of course, Inferno Girl Red. All these titles are great in their own ways, especially with Radiant Black having so much fun pushing the medium as a whole. But Inferno Girl Red might actually be my favorite. Despite the high stakes, it's the most fun. It's got a central theme of hopefulness, and the colors by Igor Monti are just absolutely ecstatic. And now for what I think is my favorite comic of last week, we have Psy Dimensional Rivals number 2. This is a comic done by Peach Momoko, who is just one of the best working artists currently. Psy is this mind-bending, dimension-hopping adventure story. If you're not familiar, the premise of the series involves the main character Psy getting tasked with finding a mystical stone, and in doing so, she's whisked away to dimension after dimension to find it. And each new world she enters brings a new artist to the comic. It's an incredibly fun showing that loves to play with the medium. At first glance, it might have seemed like just kind of an adventure of the week story, which is what I thought going into the first issue. But by the end of the second issue, it's clear there's something a lot bigger going on here, so it's still an incredibly fun ride that, again, travels to new dimensions and introduces a new artist with every world that encapsulates like the feeling of that world, but at the same time, there's clearly a larger plot structure happening, and I can't wait for it to unfold more. Alright, and that is it for our first episode of New Comic Book News, the new weekly show where I will bring you all the comic book news. If you have any tips for me going forward, please let me know. I'm open to suggestions. Is there anything you want to see more of or less of? Let me know. And of course, what comics are you reading? What was your favorite title from last week, and what of the new announcements are you most looking forward to? Let me know in the comments below. And if you would feel so inclined, I would really appreciate a subscribe and a like. That would be awesome. Share this with your comic book friends. Talk about all the lovely comic book news. And just thank you so much for hanging out with me. My name is Michael Balonis, and I will see you next week.